Managerial accounting, absorption costing versus variable costing. Now, before we take a look at variable costing and how the income statement prepared under variable costing would differ from what we've seen under absorption costing, let's talk about this $45,000 difference in net income in scenario A and scenario B. Now, we've already said that the difference arose because we produced more units than were sold in the period for scenario B. Now, why might that happen? There are legitimate reasons that a business may wish to produce more units than it sells in a particular period. It may want to build its safety stock in anticipation of a shortage down the road of a raw material or something like that, or it may be building inventory in anticipation of increased sales in the future. Both of those are legitimate reasons for building up inventory, for producing more inventory than we sell in a particular period. However, there are costs associated with building inventory. Those additional 1,000 units, we tripled our inventory in scenario B. We went from 500 units to 1,500 units. So those additional units have to be stored somewhere. So we may have excess warehouse space, or we may have to rent an additional warehouse to store that inventory. That warehouse costs us money. We have to insure it. We've got materials, labor, and variable overhead costs tied up in that inventory. We also have to secure the warehouse, so we may have to bring on additional security guards, and so forth and so on. So there are a lot of carrying costs associated with inventory. So we have to be very careful not to build up too much excess inventory. Now, there may also be some non-legitimate or dysfunctional reasons for building up inventory. If a production manager's bonus or salary is tied to profits, then there is an incentive for that production manager to produce excess inventory, and by doing that, defer part of the fixed manufacturing overhead cost off the income statement and onto the balance sheet, thereby artificially increasing net income. Now, that is a dysfunctional purpose. So if you see inventory levels increasing, a trend over time, then that tells you that there may be a problem in your incentive system and in the ethics of your managers. So one tool that we have for avoiding this is to use the variable costing income statement for internal decision-making purposes and variable costing income for incentives. And of course, if you stop and think about it, should a production manager's incentive be tied to income? No, probably not. Production manager manages a cost center. They're responsible for controlling costs, producing a quality product as efficiently as possible and at the lowest cost that is possible for the level of quality desired. So we really should be using different incentives for a production manager, incentives that aren't related to income. And that removes the dysfunctional behavior that absorption costing lends itself to. Now, in the next video, we're going to take a look at variable costing and see how that income statement would differ from what we've seen here under absorption costing.